Hello, welcome into the CHGO White Sox Podcast, coming to you from Studio B in our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, the full CHGO White Sox crew. That's Vinnie Duber. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer, and you can read his work up at allchgo.com. The man in the middle is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him at EctorWall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. You can follow the show at CHGO_White Sox. We're going to be talking today about the upcoming Marlins series. We'll be talking about the news that happened on Tuesday, the Marlins announcing that former White Sox Tim Anderson has been designated for assignment, and then we will also get into some MLB player previews, talk about some of the top players, and
the draft.
The fun politics of bonus pool money.
I love the MLB draft so much.
And it's really simple. I mean, that's my favorite part, is like, you watch the NBA draft, and it's like, the 38th pick is being traded to Philly via Minnesota, via the Lakers, via New Orleans, via Chicago. Like it's
just like Wilco.
Yeah, hey,
yeah,
there we go. Well, George Wilco. But yeah, it's really simple because you just can't trade draft picks, right? I mean, that's it comes down to it, right? It's that simple because you don't trade draft picks outside of when they got one for Gregory Santos.
Yeah. The MLB draft is not my favorite thing, as everyone watching probably knows already. It's listen, and it's been this way forever. Like I guess it's getting better, right? Because there's a greater care by a lot of people for on the outside of the sport for it, right? You, for example, know the names of many of the guys who are going to go in the first round, right? Because you've been looking into it. You're interested in it, is my thought, right?
But would I be interested if this is not my job? Like,
well,
I don't know if this is something
but that's kind of the point, is that someone's job is to tell you, the fan, who these people are. Whereas when I was younger, I mean, the MLB draft might have not even existed, but still the same thing is true, which is you watch the NBA draft, you watch the NFL draft, those guys that your favorite team picks are going to be starting for your favorite team the next time they play a basketball or a football game.
Yeah.
The Major League Baseball draft, the White Sox, however many years ago it was at this point, right? Picked Noah Schultz in the first round. Mm-hmm. That guy is one of the best prospects in baseball, top 10 prospects in baseball, and we still have no idea when he's going to play for the White Sox, right? And again, that's just how it works. That's fine. That's baseball. It's different, but it makes the draft and the, I don't want to say hyping, because I don't even feel people hype the draft, but just the idea of like, oh, we need to pay attention to the draft. What's going to happen on draft night? It's like, what's going to happen on draft night and then in the ensuing 4 years? That's kind of what it comes down to.
And let's put some respect on it. That's now top 20 MLB prospect, Noah Schultz. He's now
I'm saying.
Number 18.
That's what I'm saying. He's like, he's really, really good. But because he was drafted as a high school student, or a child, only shortly thereafter being a high school student, we still, multiple years after he was drafted, have no idea when he's going to be in the major leagues.
And again, you don't have McDonald's at home, but you do have a 6'9" freak, and he's also a lefty and also throws this crazy slider and fastball. We didn't talk about this throughout the show yet, but Noah Schultz last Saturday, 3 2/3 innings, 7 strikeouts. He finally had a game where he just started striking out people.
He's really good.
He's really settling into
He's
double
really
A,
good.
and he already had like an ERA under 2. So it's absurd how good he is.
He's really good. Get your tickets for 2026 now.
2025.
We'll see.
That's my hot take. I think I already said it. I mean, I think he could pitch in the major leagues this year.
Well, you said that.
I know. Well, hey,
I mean, doesn't he have to get past 5 innings, though?
What's that?
Doesn't he have to get past 5 innings?
I think he has to get past 4.
That'll be helpful. I know what they're doing.
Throw him for 1.
Hey, man.
Have him hit 104.
I'm good for wherever they're doing. This is how you're supposed to build up an arm. The Garrett Crochet thing is the anomaly.
Yes, and hey, Garrett Crochet was a first-round pick. Noah Schultz was a first-round pick. I'll take this easy transition. Tim Anderson was a first-round pick of the Chicago White Sox. And again, we haven't really touched upon this news yet because we have the time to now dive into it, as the Marlins and White Sox will be playing in Miami. On Tuesday, the Marlins announced that Tim Anderson was designated for assignment. It hasn't been a pretty year for Tim Anderson. In Miami, 65 games played, a .214 average, .237 on-base percentage, a .226 slugging percentage, an OPS plus of 30. He had 0 home runs, 0 triples, and only 3 doubles, so 3 extra base hits on 50 hits. The pop is just not there for him anymore. He did play completely at shortstop, which I found a little bit interesting. They didn't try him at second base because we did hear that a lot this offseason, that if a team was acquiring him, they might try him at second base. Let's start first. Is this shocking that 2024 Tim Anderson was designated for assignment? Is it really that shocking?
Well, given the numbers, no. I guess the idea is I guess it could be considered a little shocking because it's the Marlins, and they're not really going anywhere. Like, what's the harm in keeping him, I guess? But especially because it sounded like he was very well liked in that Marlins clubhouse, if any of the reports we saw earlier in the week are to be believed. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess if you're just going by the numbers, they were terrible. And it's very clear. I mean, listen, this was the idea of Tim Anderson's free agency after the White Sox let him go this past offseason was very much, can he bounce back to show any of what he was in the past when he was making all-star teams and winning batting titles and flipping bats and hitting walk-off home runs in Iowa? And the answer was clearly no in the 60-plus games that he played there down in South Florida. So it's a shame because this guy was not very long ago probably the best baseball player the White Sox had. Yeah. And now he is a guy who cannot keep a major league job in the same season in which the same thing happened to Jose Abreu, who fits the exact description of what I was just talking about as well. So very hard lesson for those two guys, and a hard lesson for White Sox fans who had been watching them for so long in just how quickly things can come to an end in terms of your physical ability to play this game. And once you go through some of the injuries that TA went through, and you go through the many years that Jose Abreu went through playing professional baseball, it can catch up to you in a hurry.
And it's very sad because, as you were saying, Vinny, in 2022, he was the AL's starting shortstop
2 years ago
in the All-Star game. That's amazing. And before the All-Star game starts this year, he's already off one of the worst teams in baseball. So it is a sad story that Tim Anderson has fallen off the cliff in these last couple of years. And all I want is for him to get back to some semblance of himself, because we know that a 400 OPS is not him. That is one of the worst. He didn't deserve to be in the major leagues with that type of performance he did this year. I have to think that injuries are a huge part of this thing, because no home runs. I mean, how many years has it been since he's hit double-digit home runs? We used to count on him for a couple, at least 10 home runs each year, and then his power has been absolutely zapped. And as you're talking about, Sean, very few extra base hits this year. So when he was getting hits, they're just little punch-and-duty singles hitting like in the middle of the order for the Miami Marlins, who doing nothing. So, yeah, it's a very sad thing that the Miami Marlins decided to part ways with him correctly in that case, but also Tim has to find a way, if he still loves the game, if he's still dedicated to the craft, to get back to how he used to be, if that's either with a team with a minor league contract or having to go overseas, either Japan or Korea. I can see him doing that because he's still relatively young, and he's only made probably like $30-40 million in his career. So, yeah, enough to live off of, but, not generational money.
Yeah, and no, that's the most surprising part to me, is just he's a recent 31 years old, just turned 31 on June 23rd, and you look at Abreu, I mean, he's 37 and well into being 37. It's not that surprising that a player past 35, falls off a cliff like that, but it is surprising that 31-year-old Tim Anderson fell off the way that he did. And I'm with you. I think that he still deserves another chance at a major league career. I don't think it's going to come in 2024. And this is not me saying I still think that there's magic in that old silk hat we found or anything like that. But I do think that a team will give him a spring training invite if he does take the rest of 2024 off to try to recuperate. It seems like it's lower leg issues, and it seems like he's trying to manage those lower leg issues. And I don't know if he needs a surgery or if he needs to really fully recover, and maybe he needs more than just an offseason to recover, because you look at the StatCast data, it's obviously all horrible. You can go and just look at the top numbers, and they're all blue. But if you go to the running category, he's got 5 bolts, which means that's a sprint of 30 feet per second or higher, which is a fast, like Bobby Witt Jr. averages 30 feet per second because he's very fast. A bolt, a Usain Bolt. And
is that what it's named after?
I don't know, but I think it's
probably named after lightning, but
right.
It'd be cool if it was just named after Usain Bolt randomly.
Well, also, he's just got the coolest last name ever. He's fast and has the last name Bolt.
That's not his real name, right?
Is it?
It can't be.
Like Amy Freeze, who's a weather person.
Yeah, hey. I mean, some people are just born for this. Usain St. Leo Bolt, OJCDOLY. I think the OLY stands for Olympian.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
That's his real given name, Usain Bolt.
CD is ordained Order of Distinction by Jamaica, and then OJ is Order of Jamaica. But yeah, Usain Bolt.
Wow.
So he's a knight?
He is a knight. Knight Usain Bolt.
Well, I don't
His
think they have
nickname's
a king.
Lightning Bolt. Also, he has a great birthday, so shout out. They don't have a king?
Jamaica?
Yeah.
No, they used to have a king, the King of England.
Yes.
Yikes. All right, well, with that. Yeah, I'm not trying to advocate for Tim Anderson being a White Sox and being in spring training next year, but him being only 32, I think if he had the opportunity to rest his body, he should be allowed to get a chance to play second base in Major League Baseball. I think that power isn't a part of his game, and the most shocking part is that his average is at 214.
Right.
I mean, he cannot buy a hit at all. He was always a BABIP merchant. He was always able to find holes in a defense. It wasn't to Luis Ariza's level, but when he was on, I mean, he won a batting title. So I do think that there is definitely something physical that is lingering with him, and I don't know if it's an issue that can be even solved. I mean, this might just be the end of Tim Anderson, and that would be incredibly depressing.
The one thing I would say, I think you're right, because listen, there are players who are capable of making a much lesser impact in a game than Tim Anderson has shown he has over the course of his career, that have gotten chances and chances again to at least try to do something on a minor league deal in spring training, right? What I will say, though, is this is not new. This is not limited to just last season with TA. He had those extended periods of being injured and having leg injuries going back a while. And I believe it was what? Is it all the way back to 2019 when he was in Fenway Park? Playing in the rain and goes down with the leg injury there on a game that they definitely should have called before he got hurt. But that's that many years ago, right? That might have even been the batting title season. I'm not quite.
It says June 25, 2019 ankle injury.
2019,
so,
okay.
And then July 31st, right groin injury. Then September of that year, a right hamstring injury. Then April of that year, a hamstring injury.
This is all 2019.
No, this is 2021. At this point, but these
well,
are
in
just,
2021,
these are just his consecutive injuries. It's ankle, groin, hamstring, ankle, groin, hamstring,
and then what? We get to 22, and he misses much of the back half of the season. We get to 23, and he has the extended absence. So I mean, it's been a repeating thing for him, and it was for a couple of years there, 2 or 3 years there, something that he could, you miss 15 games by being on the IL, you come back and you do your TA thing, and then it got increasingly like he was having trouble playing out there, and I just wonder if the injury luck is just so bad that it really has kind of caught up to him. But as I mentioned, I do think that there are why wouldn't you why wouldn't you take a minor league flyer if you're a team come February or whatever and say, yeah, come on down to spring training, let's see what you can do in a Cactus League, in a stretch of Cactus League games. And if you can't do anything, it's no sweat. We'll just let you go, right? Because it's sad for him that he's gotten to that point, because it seemed like he was going to be a guy who was going to be one of the better shortstops in baseball, at least offensively, and one of the guys getting those big contracts like we've seen from so many other shortstops around the game. But here we are talking about a guy who, maybe will get a spring training invite.
And I think he really had just a bad offseason this year. We heard rumors early on that the Angels were interested, and then that seemed to peter out. And I think he was trying to make up the money that was lost by the White Sox declining that option, and it just ended up not working out. And you talk about the Marlins giving him a chance because they were one of the worst teams. I wonder if he didn't really have a price, if it was just a spring training invite. I wonder if that market is larger for him. I wonder if teams do still think that he could play second base just like he did for Team USA in 2023.
I forgot about that. He was one of the starting second baseman occasionally, and the 2023 start of the season, and doing well for the United States team. So yeah, the fall off and these injuries that guys have been talking about have been steep, and I think that Tim just needs to clear his head and just do whatever he needs to do to get back to the guy. But also, this is the thing where you got to marvel at players who do the top of the league performance consistently for years on end, because this guy, injuries took its toll, and now he is a shell of himself. When you see players like Shohei Ohtani, the Mookie Betts of the world, when they're just doing it every year after year and healthy, it's just a marvel to see, like, okay, how to keep your body in shape and your body doesn't break down as much as it does.
You mentioned the guy who's going to be on the IL for several months with Mookie, but that's okay.
No, but I'm saying he keeps. But I'm saying when he comes back, I'm sure Mookie Betts is going to be Mookie Betts.
I was just going to chime in. Do you know who's on the IL right now? Ohtani, the pitcher. Yeah. He's still playing. Sure. He's just also, he's just not playing one position. I mean, that's insane.
Here's this.
That.
Okay, so, the White Sox, the current state they're in, we all know the story. But here, you think if you're watching this team now, you complain perhaps about the injuries, the repeated injuries to Eloy Jimenez, to Yoan Moncada, to Luis Robert Jr., who's obviously was injured earlier this year. But it was really pervasive on that team that, for the most part, no longer exists anymore. Here we go. Since the Chris Sale trade, here's what has happened to White Sox AllStars this year.
I didn't ask for this.
Here you go. You got this? You ready?
Yeah.
2017, Avisaíl Garcia, DFA'd. Mm-hmm. 2018, Jose Abreu, this year, DFA'd. 2019, Abreu DFA'd. Giolito, out for the year. James McCann is a backup catcher for the Orioles. So, fine, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually pretty decent.
2021, Tim Anderson, DFA'd. Liam Hendricks, out. Tommy John. Lance Lynn is still pitching, so is Carlos Rodon. But 2022, Tim Anderson, DFA'd. Liam Hendricks, Tommy John. I mean, those are the all-stars for this team.
Yeah.
And 3 of them got DFA'd this year. We haven't even hit the all-star break yet, by the way. And then you've got Giolito and Hendricks, who obviously, they're not like their careers are over, but they're dealing with injury stuff themselves. Like, those were the top of the line for the White Sox over the last 6-7 years. And it's just It's not just Eloy and Moncada, guys. It's very much a team-wide or a former team-wide thing.
Thanks for that.
I can't wait until we're interviewed for the 30 for 30 about the 2020 White Sox and the fall off. What you just said, Vinny, like all the players that have, and that team that was the 2020, the team of the future. The team was going to win the most World Series in the decade of the 20s. None. It's going to be definitely a 30.
Well, we got a long way to go before the 20s are over.
Yeah, they're not going to win. They're not going to. I can guarantee you right now, as we speak, this Friday, that we are not going to see a White Sox World Series in the decade that we're currently in.
Yeah, I fully agree with that.
Okay,
that was a hot take.
It's not a hot take.
Okay.
I'm saying, like,
I know we have. If it was.
I know we have like 6 or 7 championships left in this decade, but they're not going to win any of them. 24 through 29.
6. Yeah.
Does it end at 29?
Yes.
Apparently.
All right.
Apparently.
I still disagree with that, but
you can't disagree with numbers.
Do you think it's 20 to 29?
I think it's 1 to 0.
But that's not how numbers work.
No, count to 10. You start with 0? No, you don't.
That's not how numbers work, though.
But I thought like the year 2000 is still in the 19th century, right?
What? No.
Or the 20th century?
It starts with a 2.
I don't know these things.
It's too long of a conversation for me to explain what I believe in decades and millennials and all those things in centuries.
Do you know what people would rather hear about?
Yes.
Beer.
Yeah.
People would rather be in a canoe
Yep.
up in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, cracking a liney. What do you got there?
Juicy peach.
A juicy peach. Maybe it's a berry vice. Maybe it's a summer shandy. You want to sit back in that canoe and just paddle away. Not think about decades and centuries. I mean, hours might be passing, but, you're just chilling.
Was this all an intro, or are you just doing the end?
I don't know. I was stalling, honestly. I thought you were just waiting.
I'm ready to go. I'm fine.
I'll shut up.
I mean, Sean's covered most of it already, but the folks up at Leinenkugel sure make a fine and a fantastic beer. Of our favorite, of course, is the Summer Shandy, as you can see here, as I'll do my best Vanna White. That's beer, that's lemonade. They've mashed them together, and they made a fantastic beverage that you can enjoy during all your summertime activities. You can grab a whole 6er, a 12er, a 24er, or any number of and bring it down to the lake for a picnic. You can bring it down to the Rate for a tailgate, bring it all the way up to Wisconsin. And if you're looking for new varieties, Sean already listed some of them, but I will try to come up with some others. There's Liney's Original. He didn't mention that. Nope. What else didn't he mention? Lakeside Cherry, perhaps. Sunset Wheat, perhaps. So there's so many. Of course, my favorite, Honey Vice, made by real Wisconsin bees. So you can go ahead and find that really anywhere they got the beer. I get it at the Jewels, but it's a tasty, tasty beverage, and you should have some. Flavor life's simple moments with Leinenkugel's, the official craft beer of the Chicago White Sox. Go to Leinie.com/CHGO to find delivery options near you. That's LEINIE.com/CHGO, or pick up Leinenkugel's pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Leinenkugel's, flavor the moment. Celebrate responsibly. The Jacob Leinenkugel Brewing Company. Chippewa Falls. Yes!
All right, and our friends over at Mando want me to lead into this ad read. And honestly, do you know what has stunk over the past 2 years?
The White Sox?
I was going to say Tim Anderson.
Okay.
Because he was on, that was the conversation we just had. But yeah, I mean, White Sox adjacent. Yeah, so Tim Anderson stinks. The White Sox stink. But you know what doesn't stink anymore? Your guy, Sean. I don't stink anymore, thanks to Mando. I used the cream deodorant earlier today. I never thought. I've always just been a stick guy. I didn't know that you could put it into a cream. And it's honestly a lot easier. The plastic on the stick gets a little rough. Maybe you don't really
when
push
you get
it
down
up
to
enough.
the end.
Right,
When
maybe you don't push it up enough and then you scratch yourself. That's uncomfortable. Yeah. I really like the cream tube deodorant that Mando has set over. Not only does it smell great, it's easy to apply. And what's the most valuable thing in the world to you guys?
Money.
Okay, that's a good point.
Love.
They threw out maybe home field advantage throughout the playoffs, maybe the number 1 draft pick, maybe the 2024 number 5 draft pick because you'll be able to get the top prep player in the draft.
Okay.
You know what's second? Time. You put money and love above there.
I mean, love's pretty good.
Yeah, time's not bad. But not anymore. Since we switched to Mando deodorant, we freed up so much time. We've been able to accomplish everything in our life that we've needed to. I cleaned my whole entire house, and I didn't have to shower because I didn't stink. 72 hours of protection. I mean, I did end up showering anyways, mainly just because I wanted to rinse my body off. Anyways.
And you used the body wash, didn't you?
I used the body wash. I used the acidified body wash. 4-in-1 with our bourbon leather scent. But anyways, Mando doesn't just cover up deodorant after the fact with heavy fragrances like certain other deodorants. It stops the odor at the source by blocking bacteria on your skin from eating the sweat, which actually is the cause of BO. And that means that Mando is a clinically proven to control odor for up to 72 hours. That's a very, very long time. So you don't have to. If you do clean the house, wash up.
It's 3 days.
That's 3 days. That's a good point. And new customers right now can get $5 off Mando's best-selling starter pack with code CHGO at shopmando.com. Again, use code CHGO at shopmando.com, SHOPMANDO.com. The starter pack is perfect for new customers. Comes with solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like the mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. And again, you can use our code CHGO at shopmando.com. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code that equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Go check out our friends over at Mando. All right, let's get into the next question here-ish. Is Tim Anderson still related? If this is the end of his career, is the defining moment the walk-off in the Field of Dreams?
Yes.
I mean,
it is for Tim Anderson as a baseball player, as a major league baseball player. Yes. I think Tim Anderson as a White Sox, you could argue it was the bat flip because not only did it happen in a year where he kind of rose up his game, but it happened in a year where he kind of rose up his personality as well. And obviously the story of that is different. It's not related to the bat flip, but his best friend was killed and he decided to kind of have a little more fun with things. And that was an extension of that. But I just remember all the words that he said after that happened and kind of being not a spokesman, but speaking his mind a lot more and thinking, talking about things that needed to be talked about. He took a lot of crap, including from other Major League Baseball players that shall remain nameless, but for invoking Jackie Robinson's name. But this is a guy who had a historical connection to Jackie Robinson that not a lot of other current Major League Baseball players have, and he also specified in that moment why he was making that comparison, and that's something that maybe got lost in the shuffle. But I think him talking about those issues, be they the black participation in baseball side of things, or his idea of trying to make things more fun and make things more appealing to the viewer, make an entertainment product more entertaining, right? I think that those are the conversations that needed to be had, and he was willing to talk about them. And he, started those conversations in a lot of ways, particularly here in Chicago and with the White Sox fan base. And so I think you could talk about the bat flip moment and everything else that came with it as being the definitive moment for him as a White Sox. But if you're talking about him as a baseball player, I think that Field of Dreams game, I mean, to this day, I think it's probably the biggest moment the White Sox have had as a team since they won the World Series.
Yep.
On the national stage of the game stage. And so that moment is incredible. I mean, I was there. I was in the building, and it wasn't really a building. I was in the cornfield, and it was incredible. It's going to go down as one of my most memorable times being at a baseball game for sure.
Think about that. Tim Anderson's two of his most important moments in his career came against the Yankees. That corn game, and also when he was battling the Josh Donaldson garbage. He hit a home run on Sunday Night Baseball versus the Yankees in that game where gave the White Sox solidified a lead that the White Sox had and pretty much shut the crowd down at Yankee Stadium. So, yeah, I would say undoubtedly his trademark play is that walk-off home run that he hit in Iowa, and then the trademark, shut up, kind of, having his having his hands below his neck. That was, pretty much that solidified his legacy, and everybody was watching. It was a single game that was the only baseball game going on was that game. And I won't talk about what's happening subsequently because they ruined that game. It should be White Sox every year, but that is a thing that if I'm thinking about Tim Anderson in a single moment, I'm not thinking about the walk-off home run versus Detroit, which was great because Jason's call was also great, but that home run versus the Yankees versus a good reliever in Britain is awesome.
I think, especially after 2005, it was pretty dark. There was obviously the 2008 moment that was, fantastic. You got that game against the Twins. You got the
Tommy home run.
The Tommy homer that went to the moon. You had the Brian Anderson catch. There were so many great parts of that game. Obviously, the 1-0 win, but from about 2009 to 2019, it was a fairly darkish place to watch White Sox baseball. There wasn't a ton of great moments that were everlasting. Probably the everlasting moment of that is trading away Fernando Tatis Jr. And that moment in 2019, because it happened so early in the year, there was so much excitement about Moncada, Kopech, all the young players, Anderson, him being able to really hook me in 2019 and really reignite that White Sox fandom and make me care more about White Sox baseball, not because of my job, not because I was going into sports or anything, just because he was so exciting to watch. And I don't know if this is fair, but he, like Jason Benetti, very much was open with his personality and let the audience into who he was. And it was
after a while,
right? I mean, it took Tim a while, but
2019,
I mean, like that, I didn't know much about Tim before 2018. Like, I obviously knew he was a first-round pick. I knew he was obviously making his way up to the minors, but like, I didn't really know much about him. And then 2019, that really exploded. And I don't know, like there was just a part of him and a piece of him that I really did appreciate. He just really enjoyed baseball. It was great to watch him play, and his style of play was just so, it drew you in. It really sucked you into the TV. And I think even though he didn't have like a true signifying moment in the postseason, that dude didn't flail at all. 33 at-bats, 16 hits. He had a 485 batting average in 2020 and 2021. He was phenomenal. Leading off, being that straw that stirred the drink. He was everything the White Sox needed in those brief years. And again, it's just surprising. We've talked about this already, that by the second half of 2022, it was basically all gone. He wasn't that same player. And, even though he had the moment in 2023 where he was still an all-star, right? Yeah.
2022.
Yeah. Or 2022. I don't know. It's crazy that it's all just kind of robbed from him. And that's why I just hope he gets some second chance at this. I mean, he is a person that I think genuinely enjoys baseball. I would be shocked that his athleticism drops off this much. Yeah. I think it has to be something either mentally, physically, or both lingering on him.
It can only be one explanation, Sean. The Monstars came down and took his power.
Probably.
Because otherwise, it doesn't make sense for an otherwise healthy person to be just not good at baseball anymore in a year.
Well, I've been watching a lot of YouTube shorts about space.
Yeah.
And you know how...
Is this going to be Monstars related?
Maybe. But you know how, the Big Bang happened? And then, like, it kind of went...
I don't remember it, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, I know you're 12 million years old, but not 13.8 million or whatever. But like...
Billion.
Yeah. Is there another equivalent Earth on the other side? Is there Earth 2 if we're on the right side of the sun,
Multiverses?
is there well, not even a multiverse, just the solar system is so humongous big. Is there another Earth out there? We don't know. We'll never know.
Yeah. There'll be
And you think Tim Anderson's on it?
Yeah, well, maybe that's where the Monstars are from.
The better
maybe
Tim Anderson's over there.
The Monstars from Earth 2 have stolen Tim Anderson's power.
Yeah, what a big, incredible waste if it was just us here at Earth. No, that'd be dumb. It's like just the Big Bang, and yeah, that tiny blue ball, yeah, they got all the inhabitants and all the intelligent life forms.
I don't know how we got here, but we got to take another break. So why don't we let the people know about our friends over at Sunnyside and Indeed. We got some more minor Marlins topics that we do want to get into. I was going to jump into some Jake Burger talk there, but then I got so distracted by Tim Anderson, so it's fine. But let's tell the people over about our friends over at Sunnyside. Herb.
Well, our friends at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary are here to elevate your summer. So Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. They have a crazy selection with over 100 different strains to choose from with easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Wherever you are in Illinois, Sunnyside has a location for you. They have spots as far south as Champaign, as far north as South Beloit. Stop in the store nearest you for experience or expert guidance from their staff, or select from the quality lines like Cresco or Florical. Here's the good news for the summer. Good news tea time disposable vape. Bring your classic lemonade flavor that's perfect for the golf course, which we're going to be golfing a couple of weeks from now at the Cook-Off Classic, and then a month after that at our second Kickoff Classic. So we'll be grabbing one of these good time or good news tea time vape so we can be on the tea time and having a great time, because all we need is a little help staying loose on the green. I'm picking up some Friday gummies. You know me. From our people at Good News at Sunnyside. You too can pick them up at sunnyside.shop and use the code HICHGO, HICHGO at checkout for 35% off your entire order, including Cresco, Good News like I'm going to be getting, or more to elevate your first purchase. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders.
Thank you, Herb. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Indeed.
Indeed.
They're driven by the search for better, and when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. And leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored. And listeners to the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right. So another first round pick. Hey, it's kind of funny how this all works. Jake Burger of the Chicago White Sox. Burger was traded last deadline in a trade that someone needs to use the phone book, dust off the Kenny Williams cell phone, dust off the Rick Hahn cell phone, say, hey guys, do you have a second? We need to figure out how that whole Burger Eater trade went down, because it seems like from reports that Kenny Williams was the one that made the decision to trade Jake Burger to Miami, and I really do wonder what Rick Hahn thought of that. It's kind of fascinating. In a way like HBO, ways of GMing, that somebody above you is making calls for Jake Burger to be sent to Miami. It seems, though, like this has played out fairly well. Jake Burger, even though he was really good at the end of 2023.
Hasn't played out very well for Jake Burger.
Well, no. Yeah. But, I mean, he's got a lot of Burger King ads down in Miami. He's got some ad money. And he joined you guys at Winter
Meetings.
There, yeah. So there you go.
Great guy.
But in the second half of 2023 was very good for Miami. Has not been that good in 2024. I think the one thing about Jake Burger, still a major leaguer. Jake Eater, who we're talking about, still a minor leaguer in Birmingham. But he is a part of this vast depth for the White Sox pitching prospects. Looking back on this trade, was Kenny Williams right to pull this trigger on the Jake Burger for Eater swap?
I was always in favor of it because I was saying last year that I thought the Jake Burger year that he was having was pretty much the highest year he was going to have. And so looking at recent White Sox people who had a boom year, like Daniel, I forgot his name, the left-handed guy, Daniel Palco, or Josh Fields and Nicky Delmonico, and the 1 year Avi Garcia, which we named earlier, the White Sox didn't really take advantage of those boom years of those players, and then they got all the bust. And it's always a good term to go a year before, then go a year later. And so I know people are sad because, first, Jake Burger, top-notch person, same thing with his family. And he was having a great year, and he would have been a good replacement for the oft-injured Yoan Moncada. And he had improved his defense, and that was the one bugaboo going into 2023 with the White Sox, that Jake Burger wouldn't really, be a starting third baseman for the White Sox because his defense was just so woeful the years before. But at the time, I was like, let's cash in on the great year of Jake Burger with a prospect that maybe can turn into gold eventually. And Jake Eder had a horrible last year coming off of Tommy John surgery, and so everybody was on Kenny Williams, on the White Sox. Jake Eder, yeah. Everybody was on the White Sox about, hey, why'd you trade Jake Burger away for this garbage Jake Eder? Now the tables have turned. Jake Eder down in Double-A is doing pretty decently. I think he's got a 4 ERA, but I think his whip is down low. He's doing well for Birmingham. It looks that he's going to be projected to be a major league player eventually. And so you're getting a major league left-handed starter out of a player that now can't find the success he had last year. So I was always in favor of it, even though Jake Eder is a little long in the tooth for a prospect. I think he's 26 now. I think it was a great trade, and I think that Kenny Williams was much maligned for that trade. His last trade as a Chicago White Sox, because him and Ken Ming had a previous relationship when Ken Ming was here as a White Sox employee.
Eder 25, 26 in October.
Okay. So, yeah, I think I'm still in favor of the trade, no matter what happens.
It's kind of odd to be talking about it as those guys having made all those moves, Rick and Kenny having made those moves at the trade deadline last year, because really what they did was they set up a brand new rebuild, right? In one now that is Chris Getz's rebuild, but they're the ones who made those trades to really kind of, you don't want to say kickstart, because I don't think the trades were quite as big of a deal as the ones that Rick made in 2016 and 2017, but they were a nice step, a nice starting point for what Chris Getz now has to do. And we're talking about an awful lot of pitching depth in the minor leagues for the White Sox, an awful lot of pitching promise in the minor leagues for the White Sox, and that's due to not just that trade, but several of the other ones that were made last summer. In that one particularly, I mean, again, it's we're not even a year removed from it. I don't think you can be like, ha, they did it. The White Sox scammed the Marlins with a guy that's never played in the major leagues. And a guy in Jake Burger who's only through three months of this season. So I think there's still plenty of time to go on that one before we can start making judgments. But I will say this: the turning the corner from trying to contend to rebuilding again is made a lot easier when you're able to bring in somebody as talented as Jake Eder. And if Jake Burger was not going to be part of the plans. I mean, heck, we're talking about Garrett Crochet possibly not being part of the plans, or Luis Robert Jr. not being part of the plans. Jake Burger maybe was not going to be part of the plans as well, to turn it into somebody who could be part of that next contending team. It's whether you like it or not, it's what you got to do if that's the direction you're going in. And this is the direction that this franchise chose to go in even before Chris Getz took over as the general manager.
Yeah, I looking back on the trade, I definitely don't think it's a win for either team. It's just a swap at this point. And again, kind of going back to our discussion on Monday, I don't think it's really fair to even label trades as winners and losers. Like there's the, what's it called, Herschel Walker trade. There's a winner in that. There's a loser in that one. There's the Kings ransom for Wayne Gretzky, and I think the Oilers were probably losers in that, and the Kings are probably the winners because they got, Wayne Gretzky.
The Bears over the Panthers.
The Bears over the Panthers, right? Like there's clear winners and losers trades, but like, the White Sox had a plan. The plan didn't go right, but all those players, I mean, even till 2024, Moncada and Kopech are still contributing to your team. Maybe not in the ways that you've wanted them to, but they're still here. I think that I kind of wish Burger was still on this team because there is such a lack of position players that are intriguing. And the issue with Jake, though, is just he's basically the same age as Gavin Sheets. And, he obviously less time in the majors than Gavin. And he's hit 34 home runs. Gavin's never hit 34 home runs in a season. But I don't know. I think looking back on it, I just don't know if the White Sox need Jake Eder. Like that's my thing is I don't know if that was a fully cohesive deal, and if that front office was just making deals to make deals and possibly prop up the prospect ranking because, hey, we're not going to have Jake Burger as a prospect anymore. We'll have Moncada. Eder's going to be contributing to that prospect ranking and maybe contributing to us saving our jobs if we do have maybe some more bright futures. Like, I'm just trying to wonder, like, why did Kenny and Rick disagree? I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. And maybe Kenny was trying to make a play for the future to increase the overall perception on the organization's prospect health because they acquire Bush, Caro, plus Eder, and Burger would have already been graduated. Burger, there was also the backup of just Moncada playing third. But where was Burger going to play?
Well, yeah, I don't know why you're going at it like from it's like a trick standpoint, like they're trying to, inflate anything or anything like that. I mean, I think they saw the writing on the wall that the team that they had put together was not going to win. I mean, that team was horrible last year. And so I think Rick said it when he made the moves, and I think it's true. They were trying to inject some talent that could be used for the future, for the long term. You among many spent the last couple of years decrying the kind of lack of depth that they had in the organization, even pointing to it in times as one of the reasons why this thing didn't play out the way that it was supposed to. Here they are going not just to try and get players that can be part of a long-term plan, right, and a long-term, whatever you want to call it, whatever, whether that was going to be under Rick and Kenny or not, right? But also adding depth. You like the idea of, at the time, Kopech and maybe Crochet being part of the rotation of the future. Well, why don't we go add a bunch of young guys to maybe back them up kind of thing? Because as we saw, they didn't have that in the last couple of years. And when guys got hurt, it didn't work out. So I think that they made that trade for a very obvious reason. And we're going to see if it plays out that way under a different leader. But to say that you don't think the White Sox need Jake Eder, or you're not sure if they do or not, absolutely they do. That's the direction they're going in. They're trying to find the rotation of the future, and as should be very apparent from the list of guys that we can remember back to from the last rebuild that never even played in the major leagues, right? You're going to need all the shots at it as you can get. And once you got 8 major league quality starters, then you can talk about trading from depth. But I think right now you're just trying to find 5 guys that could be part of this.
I think you brought up the idea of trading Crochet, and if it is similar, obviously Crochet's performing better than Burger was, but your point about control is obviously right. I mean, when Eder gets called up, he'll have 6 years of control. Burger will be a free agent in 2029. So, I mean,
which is a long time from now, but still, yeah.
Well, that's I guess my point is Burger had so much control, and it was just 1-for-1. So you need Jake Eder to become depth. I mean, at this point, he's not really depth. He's an arm, but like we don't even know if you could trust him for 2 starts, like at a major league level. So I guess looking back on it, they borrowed from their position player depth to gain pitching depth.
Correct.
But they gained pitching depth by adding Brian Banister. So it seems like that is a little bit of a wash. I think they would have been better off keeping Burger because obviously we saw what happened to Moncada after 11 games. I mean, right now, Burger could be playing third base for him, and I know that the numbers are ugly, but Burger also seems like a player that could just hit 15 homers in a month, like, and just get hotter than the sun. So I just think that, like, if they did a 2-for-1 and they were able to get more from the Marlins and maybe a little less of a top-end return like Eder, and they were able to get a little bit more balance of return, I think that might have been smarter just judging the trade.
But also think about how the White Sox have to acquire starting pitching talent. Like when they're going through their good years of 2020 through 2022, all those players were either traded for and then Dallas Keuchel was the one anomaly where they had to eat money at the end of it. I'm sure Jerry was really pissed about that at the end of the thing, at the end of the rebuilds. Like, hey, I had to go and pay for you guys' mistake in Dallas Keuchel. So Kenny and Rick and their infinite wisdom saying, hey, we need to get and acquire as many arms, especially starters, to bolster this minor league system, as Vinny said, to have the depth needed to be a starting rotation that is worthy of competing in the league. And so he knows who his owner is, and he's working under those circumstances. And yes, he did rob from the position player talent to get the depth in the starting rotation, but I think it's worth it if Jake Eder comes up here and gives you anything in his major league career, because you're just trading out what Jake Burger, and I don't think that Kenny believed in what Jake Burger was last year is what Jake Burger could have been in the future. And I thought it was a smart move, him cashing the chips in on Jake Burger and getting a prospect that used to be highly touted. Then he ran into the Tommy John, and it's like, hey, we could just rebuild from where he was to where he could be again. So I think it was a good calculated risk for Kenny Williams to do that.
You're also operating under the assumption that they need to have that depth today. You know, they need to have that position player more fortified today. They don't. They're rebuilding. They're the worst team in baseball. They're probably not going to be contending next year. We know they're not contending this year. What is it? If you had Jake Burger on this team playing third base right now, what would that do for you? You know what I mean? Like, if you were to keep Jake Burger, you would have needed him to be good in 2027.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, why is that better than trying to build up pitching depth and trying to get yourself a pitcher? I guess you could say they're kind of the same, but I think, you know, to be fretting over the quote unquote state of the White Sox position player base at the moment doesn't really make much sense to me. Let's talk about it in 2 years. You know what I mean? I think Chris Getz has basically said this is going to be a long process, and so in a way, he's bought himself time for which to be judged by what he's going to build, because it is still in the process of being built.
You know who'll be here in 2 years, Vinny? We've talked about
Me?
the 20. Well,
You?
Hopefully,
Her?
us.
I mean, hopefully.
We've talked about the 2013 first-round pick for the White Sox, Tim Anderson. We've talked about the 2017 first-round pick for the White Sox and Jake Burger, who will probably be here in 2024. The 2024 MLB, or 2026 will be the 2024 first-round pick for the. It's just, I'm trying to transition.
I see what you did. I knew where you were going. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
there we go. All right, so I'm going to do 3 players. I talked a little bit on Monday about what could possibly happen. There was a great episode of the Au Jus with Beef Loaf and Josh Nelson of the 108. Josh did a great job of explaining the top of the draft and how all of these bonus pool topics will work and how all the bonus pool politics will work. It is unsure who the Guardians will take at number 1. What Josh talked about yesterday was the players last year, the past 2 number 1 picks in Skeens and I forget the guy who before him, Skeens and Davis? I don't know. But Skeens last year had a bonus signing that was near $10 million. And right now, the Guardians, their actual pool for that pick is $10.5 million. But what they're trying to do and likely going to do is try to cut a deal where they would gain more of that $10.5 million, and they could spread that $10.5 million to the second and third round to try to get some players like the White Sox did with Jared Kelly in 2020, where they really wanted that player. They pushed all of their bonus pool from the third, fourth, and fifth round into Jared Kelly to get him in the second round. So there's a lot of politics that could be played. Maybe J.J. Weatherholt of West Virginia goes number 1, and he could possibly also fall all the way to the White Sox at 5. I think if Weatherholt is there, that would be the White Sox pick. So let's tell you a little bit about our guy, J.J. Weatherholt. There was concerns that he was injured earlier on this year. He didn't play as many games as he did in 2022 and 2023 with West Virginia, and the numbers weren't as eye-popping as 2023. His batting average was, a normal 417 or so. His on-base percentage was over 500. I think he had a slugging percentage of 727. Yeah. Very normal. This year it was only, 330. I think his on-base percentage was only 400. Ugh. His slugging percentage was like 494 or something, right? Obviously a bust. It will be interesting to see if a player like that falls to the White Sox. I think if Weatherholt is available, I think that would be the White Sox pick. It seems fairly safe. It seems similar to Jacob Gonzalez, but with a lot higher upside. They had to fix Jacob Gonzalez's swing when they drafted him from Ole Miss. With Weatherholt, there isn't really that problem. There's so much talks of him having the cleanest swing in the draft. He is a shortstop and can play shortstop fully. They can move him to the outfield if they want, that flexibility, but he's played shortstop at West Virginia, and he could be another shortstop, which everyone loves. When you're drafting, pick the most athletic player because it's likely that he could play anywhere on the field. So if it turns out where Weatherholt isn't able to get a deal at 1 or 2 because he wants a certain amount of money, maybe that amount of money trickles down to the White Sox at 5 where they're able to select Weatherholt. If they're not able to select Weatherholt, I like Connor Griffin of Jackson Prep in Mississippi. Everyone else does. I'm not a scouting director, but it seems like Griffin is a guy
like
that
what
the
you
White
hear.
Sox would. Yes, it seems very White Soxian. We've talked a lot about George Wilco, and he was a player.
Wilco will love you, baby.
Yes, and he was a player that reclassified last year. He was a very young player. He should have been graduating from, where was he from? Oswego. I always think that's Noah Schultz. No, Noah Schultz is from
Oswego.
Yeah.
He's from Downers Grove.
Downers Grove.
DGA.
He should have been graduating from Downers Grove like in June this year. In 2024, he should be graduating high school this year. Like Wilco, Griffin has reclassified, so he is 6'4". He's athletic. He is a shortstop, and he's 17, right? So I think that could be part of the White Sox thought process is let's go get young top talent if Weatherholt isn't available because he is so polished, and then let's try to sprinkle that bonus pool to the second and third round, just like Cleveland's doing, because Griffin wants to be the highest prep player taken in this draft. There isn't going to be a prep player taken 1 through 4. So I think it is possible that Weatherholt and Griffin are there for the White Sox, and I think those are the two likely choices for them. I don't think there is much outside of that. I think Condon, Bazzana, and Caglione likely go within the top 4, and the White Sox won't be able to select them. There is also Chase Burns, and Hagen Smith from Tennessee, and he was from Tennessee and Wake Forest, and then Hagen Smith of Arkansas. I don't think the White Sox would go pitching.
They love their hogs,
top
though.
5. They do, but you know who I really like? He's a Bulldog. He's from the SEC. It's Jurangelo Sinja. Jurangelo,
great name,
is a very great name. Is a somewhat natural righty, but he's got something that's very unique about him. Is he also throws from the left-handed side?
He's a pitcher.
He's a switch pitcher.
Oh, I like
baby.
that.
He
That'd
throws 95 from the right side. He throws 95 from the left side. He's more naturally a right-handed pitcher, but comparing him to Burns and Smith, I wonder if they could talk him into, hey, we will really take down from our actual pool our signing slot. Instead of you going 15 and signing, maybe because he's projected to be 15, the Mariners have a slot of 4.88. Maybe the Sox offer him $5 million, and they're able to take 2.7 or whatever to the second and third round if they have a player that they think like of George Wilco. But I really love Jurangelo Sinja, not only because he's a switch pitcher, not only because he could just middle the game, just say, hey, I'm pitching lefty and switch over. Not only if he needs Tommy John in his right hand, he could just be a left-handed pitcher. There's a lot of great things about this guy. But I also think that he is probably the best frame. Burns is 6'3", 220. Hagen Smith, 6'4", 220. Jurangelo shorter, but kind of stouter, just has more of a solid build to him. Feels a little like Zach Greinke-ish in a way. He just seems super athletic to be able to be a pitcher from the right-handed and left-handed side. He seems like a guy that the more and more he pitches, the more and more he does this, he'll just naturally grow into being an athlete. So I do wonder if the White Sox do a little, moving around and maneuvering and do get tricky with the bonus pool money just like Cleveland is, because they're a team that's not going to have a top 10 pick next year, or will just be the 10th pick of next year's 2025 draft, and they need as much top-end talent as possible. And I wonder if they do try to get a little tricky in the first, second, or third. So the 3 possible names, I think, Jurangelo Sinja of Mississippi State, Connor Griffin, the prep kid from Louisiana, and then finally J.J. Weatherholt of West Virginia.
You answered my question. You had said earlier he was a Bulldog from the SEC, but you did not specify Mississippi State or Georgia, so that was going to be my first question. But you answered it there, so nice job.
There's other Bulldog, Charlie
He's
Connor.
one of them.
He's from Georgia.
He's one of them cowbell Bulldogs.
Yes.
Yeah. Not an Athens Bulldog.
Right.
All right.
Best player available. That's who they should pick.
I think that's Weatherholt. If not, I think you could talk yourself into Griffin just because of the age. I mean, they did it with Montgomery. He was a prep player. They did it with Noah Schultz, and both of those have seemed to be all right. I mean, both of those are now top 20 prospects in Major League Baseball. I don't think that's a bad strategy that they've gone with so far under Mike Shirley. They've done a really great job of getting some prep players. I know Jerry Kelly hasn't worked out, but he's also like 21 still, and he's like now a closer in Kannapolis and looking decent. So maybe they'll get something out of that second round pick from 2020. Anyways, that's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. That's Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber. That's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him at EcknerWall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. We will talk to you on Monday. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.